Welcome back to another edition of the Raider Take podcast. I'm Micah McDonald. Joining me as a special guest on this episode, head coach, co-owner of the North State Grizzlies, former San Diego State offensive lineman, and the only person on this podcast who got to celebrate a victory Monday, Darias Jones. How are you doing, Coach D?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
Not too bad. I wish I was, on here with better circumstances, but that would mean one of us wouldn't be. So I guess I'll take the arrows on this one.
That's nice. Okay. Well, somebody had to win, somebody had to lose.
Yeah, I guess that's just the way football goes. Sports goes in general. So Darius, huge Washington football team fan. We going into this, we obviously had to make a little bit of a wager on the game. I still got to hit you with that Venmo, but I told him if we didn't score more than 20 points or more, I would sit here and say, "Hail to the Washington football team." They were the superior team in this game. In general, is debatable, but you beat us, so you got the bragging rights as of now. But there it is. Hail to the Washington football team, making good on my side. But yeah, we had an interesting game. The Washington football team came to Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas. It was quite the barn burner from both sides of the team, both sides for each team. Washington won 17-15. What was your take on the game? How did you see things? What did you like? What did you not like? Just overall thoughts.
I think the game was played well. A little bit slower than expected. I expected teams to come out throwing the ball. Both teams' defensive backfield don't always play well, so I assumed it was going to be a game of which quarterback turns the ball over the least. But I think both teams' coaches decided we're going to run the ball or try to establish, well, for the football team, establish a run game, play the clock game, manage it. Overall, it was a decently refereed game. Both teams were aided with penalties on both scoring drives late in the game, which was not fun for fans' sake, but pass interference or holding or whatever the case is all part of it. Um, Overall, I like the way each team is trending, personally speaking.
Yeah, you like the fact that the Raiders are trending downwards because we're spiraling out of control on the back end of our season again.
I think overall development for the Raiders are the trend. The trend is consistency in playing football well. I don't think they run the ball enough to stay consistent, which puts a lot of pressure on Derek to be great. And I don't know if he's ready for that. Trend wise, defensively, the front seven for the Raiders, outside of a few injuries, played awesome late in the game. So if that can continue, maybe they'll catch some since they lost, I want to say, 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, that's been really, I mean, our defense in years past has always been, the worst spot of our team. Gus Bradley came in and he's been doing pretty well at kind of, our defense kind of keeping us in games. And then, mainly from, the defensive line, Yannick and Max Crosby have just been lights out this year and kind of, helping our defense be able to cover well on the back end. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those things where if you look at any of the teams that have gone out and taken advantage of the issues we've had, they've been able to establish the run. The Chiefs were able to do that, and we've had games where we played well against the run, and a lot of those games we tended to win. So I think Washington kind of went out there like, if we can establish the run, that's kind of been a big success for a lot of teams against us. Our defensive backs on the back end have played relatively well, but like you said, very shaky. Can be a weak spot in the defense, but Gus Bradley's defense, they kind of let everything underneath go and just try not to get beat deep. But that just lets teams kind of chunk us apart, as you kind of saw Gibson was able to, and McLaurin was kind of able to as well. And even though it kind of seemed like we were on top of them for the most part, guarding them, it was like when it came in big, they were getting these big chunk yards, 7+ plays to get first downs and stuff like that. So it's very frustrating, even though our defense has been a lot better than we're used to. It's still frustrating in the sense of like, all right, well, like don't get beat deep, But then also, if you can't cover in the red zone, then it's like they just put up a 7-minute drive against you that ultimately ended in the same result as if you just give up a 30-second drive because of a deep bomb. So it's frustrating. And I think that if we were going to have any success, it was going to be in the passing game because your guys' run game has been very stout this year, very good. But Derek Carr was so inconsistent, and we've been living and dying by him. We're 6-0 when he throws for 300 plus yards, 0-6 when he doesn't. So, and it almost seemed like everybody on our team played well except for him. He was overthrowing people, missing, some throws. Zay Jones got held at the end there. We should have had the ball on the 10-yard line, but I think that goes either way. So I'm
Right.
okay accepting that because if we were on the defensive side of that, I was like, hey, good play on there. Is a no call, good no call. So it goes both ways.
I see a lot of the changes in Derek Carr's played over these last 5 or so games is the interior offensive line play. He's getting a lot of pressure right up the middle, right in his face, which can cause some of those overthrows and lead to him being sporadic or rushing to get the ball out of his hands when a player like I think a few times in the game, which I was surprised because Deshaun Jackson has always killed us. He was running the over route and he's open, but because of the interior pressure in Leatherhead or Leatherwood, not necessarily holding ground. I mean, he held a lot. I'm pretty sure he held on every play, but
Damn
without
near.
him like standing firm in there, it led to Derek missing a lot of open people. Like a fan of football watched that game, and both ways there were wide open receivers running around, and just at times there were no time for the quarterback to even see or get the ball out on both sides. Max played mad and great, had a great play hitting the quarterback's arm, leading to interception. Raiders are just Raiders. Ultimately, they'll find a way. Like being a special guest on this show, it goes back to the Ravens game. They almost try to be the Raiders and give it to them. So essentially, what we can count on year by year for us non-Raider fans is that eventually they just have to be the Raiders. And when it shows up, it's gonna be them on the short end of the stick. Sometimes, hopefully, being a Washington fan and a fan of football, period, I want to say our last Super Bowl win was over those very same Raiders, and maybe something of that sort. So it's just one of those things. The Raiders be Raiders.
Yeah, unfortunately, as a Raiders fan, you hope week in and week out, year in, year out, that they're just not going to be the Raiders. But as you said, the Raiders will be the Raiders. And a lot of times, until proven differently, you can count on that happening. And we've got lucky enough that, we've played clean games. But, if you look at the success we've had, the whole time kind of since Gruden came back, and obviously he's gone now, but our run game has always been really good. Josh Jacobs has been really good since he's been there, but we've also had a good offensive line. And now the offensive line is dog shit, really, when it comes down to it. Leatherwood is, he's a rookie, but
Right.
he's also for the where we picked him at. It's like you got to be better than that. Like you hope
Absolutely.
you hope that it pans out. We had troubles with Colton Miller his rookie year drafting him 15 overall, and he's turned out to be. I mean, he's our best lineman now, and he's playing, a top 10, top 15 tackle in the league. So you hope that it works, but when you're watching it and he's holding on every play, damn near, he's getting beat all the time. He got beat when he was playing tackle. Now they moved him to guard. He's still getting beat. It's like at some point you're just like so fed up with it and frustrated. And you can see that the offensive line is, they're holding on by a string to have some semblance of a decent offensive line that can get things going. But it seems as much as the Raiders have kind of been living and dying by Derek Carr's been living and dying by the offensive line.
Right.
And you watch the games we've had success, there's a reason why the offensive line has had good games in the games that we've won, you know what I mean? Or we've won in the games that they've done well. So biggest issue for our team for sure, at least on offense for sure, is offensive line. And it's atrocious. And it's one of those things where you'd have no idea which group you're going to get week in and week out. But the last few weeks we've been getting a shell of, what the Raiders offensive line has been in years past, for sure.
Right. I think going forward, if they attempted to run more, being a fantasy guy, I drafted Josh Jacobs, hoping
Me too.
he would have a breakout year. Got to get him more touches. Um, Kenyon Drake, unfortunately, got tackled from behind and broke his ankle. It sucks because he's a good back, and we always want to see him do well. But now it's Jacob's turn. Hand him the ball and see what happens. Obviously, as a former offensive lineman myself, we're always better moving forward. So if you put pressures on defense by running it 20 times a game, I mean, for Christ's sakes, the Monday night game, I think they threw 3 passes in New England or in Buffalo from New England side. Got to start building that run game and see if you can save some of that massive pass rush they have on defense with Ndakwe and Crosby and save that energy, and then they close it out. Not to dwell on the negative, but sometimes every Sunday or Monday, Thursdays, and last year during the COVID Wednesday, we never know how the football game's going to end. As long as the football team win, I think we're good. I'm really looking forward to the Raiders game this weekend, though. I think they started this trend of 2 deep safety that started a downward trend with Pat Mahomes. So I think maybe it's a bounce back week for the Silver and Black. Who knows?
Well, I'm hoping so, because it's as much as how good the Chiefs have been, the last few years and whatnot. I always talk myself into, how we can potentially win the game. And as much as we're playing like shit right now, this year of all years, it has proven that, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are human. And, they's finally the stat that always has been thrown around since he was a starting quarterback is that he has most dropped interceptions out of any quarterback in the league. And I think this year they're finally catching them. Defenses are finally coming down with it, and you're seeing that his aggressiveness, as much as it's been, the backbone for his play lately, that it's getting him in trouble, and their defense is worse than it has been. So I say that, and I said that going into this last game the last time we played them, and we just absolutely got routed by them, and it was a bounce back game for the Chiefs, just like they needed. But it's just
Right.
been so frustrating lately because, unfortunately, going back to what you said about the offensive line, you're always better moving forward. Our offensive line has been better pass blocking than they have run blocking when you look at the games that we've had success. But Jacobs really does need to get going. It seems like when he's out there, he's a difference maker, and he makes plays happen. And even if a play is blown up, he's usually still able to get it back to the line of scrimmage, which obviously sucks when you lose it down like that. But, he's able to make something happen out of nothing, and then also able to break stuff out when he's actually got a hole to work with. So I don't
Right.
know. I mean, it seems like the answer every week is get Josh Jacobs going, get him the
Right.
ball, try to establish the run. And we can't seem to do it. And, we got lucky enough that 6 games so far this year, Derek Carr's been able to carry it, but we see what happens when he's not perfect. And it's just
Right.
been rough. So
Not knowing how long Waller out, I would like the Raiders to do more 11 set, more 3 wide receivers, get Zay Jones and Deshaun Jackson on the field with third and Renfro more often, and them being able to take the top off, open up more of those quick and easy routes for Hunter to get loose, which would keep the chains nice and short and Derek not pressing. Derek Carr, as a fan of football, he's not as bad as some people like to say he is. He's not as great as most Raiders fans tend to say he is, but he's definitely a capable individual, can lead that team to the winning that division eventually, especially with some of the later round draft picks the Raiders been having. That cornerback, the young guy Hobbs, he's nice. The safety's playing well. Them drafting a safety has made Abrams step his game up tenfold and play more towards the line of scrimmage. I like that young linebacker number 5. You guys got to get him
behind
on the field
Diablo.
more often. Perriman is playing lights out, kind of tackling machine. Reminded me of another number 52, not Ray Lewis, Patrick Willis. I think Perriman tackled everything moving from the first quarter to the third quarter until he hurt his ankle. Raiders' future, if they can get a good coach in there due to these unforeseen issues, and they had a lot this year. I thought they was on their way. I thought they were on their way to the playoffs. I have a standing bet with a good friend of ours, Mr. Stanford, that the Raiders won't make the playoffs. I think it's like a bottle or something. And I was scared for a long time. I was like, wait a minute, 6 wins? These guys are doing great. And then the Raiders turned into the Raiders. The future's bright though. I think you add a few more pieces, a nice wide receiver, maybe through free agency to kind of help out Hunter and Darren not get doubled all game long. Run the ball more with some consistent effort and offensive line play. And the Raiders could easily be first in that division, especially with the Broncos being the Broncos. And the Chargers are so sporadic. One day they look great, the next they
They
look
look
like
like the Chargers. They look like Philip
they
Rivers was.
belong in San Diego.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's one of the, frustrating parts is that, like, right now, the division is so up in the air, and, unfortunately, we're playing just as, sporadic and questionable as the rest of them are playing as well. At least the Chargers and the Chiefs. The Chiefs are kinda back on track a little bit, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, what's weird is there's so many things that we're gonna have to address in the off season, down to, our coaches and then draft free agency stuff, like all teams, a lot of teams, obviously have to do that. But like where we're sitting at in the season, it's like we're still very much in it when it comes to possibly, making the playoffs for whatever, whether it's wild card or however the division pans out. So it's like at this point in time, a lot of teams that lose their coach midseason, it's because they've already just, crapped out. They're already looking at the off season. So we're like in a weird spot where it's like it's hard to not to focus on like, all right, where might we go with that route? Because it's like we still have rest of the season to play, potential. It's obviously looking very grim in regards to making the playoffs, since our downward spiral. But there's just so much stuff now all of a sudden, when Gruden gone, having to go coach wise, with Ruggs gone, having to then again touch on wide receiver, someone who could be a number one and whatnot. It's all of a sudden a whole Pandora's box of issues have popped up. So that's always cool having to deal with that. And on the flip side of things, how are you feeling with football team, this season, moving forward? Playoff potential, where are you at on where you guys
um
stand?
I think kind of like the Raiders, you in the they're in a position to where you're not necessarily good enough to win it all. So as a fan, you want to see them compete and continue to do well. But the more we win, you're happy on Sunday, but you think the later your draft pick gonna be because we're clearly a good quarterback away in consistent play between the receivers. We gotta get some help for Scary. We tried with Samuels, but he's been hurt all season, and now we're playing him in a gadget role in the backfield, which I don't really understand that because he's a downfield, take the top off wide out. As a fan, I'm gonna just keep rooting and hope we keep winning. We upset the Bucks earlier this year, which means the team can pretty much beat anybody in the playoffs when it comes down to that. But we got the Cowgirls this weekend, 2 games back in the division, and we play 5 of our division opponents over the next 5 weeks. So their destiny's in their own hands. The football team is the football team. We haven't been that great for many years. We just need to get some consistent developmental draft picks and keep working on it. Our third round picks the last few years, outside of Dami Brown this year, Scary Terry was a third round pick. Antonio Gibson was a third round pick, which led me believe that at least our scouts and GMs are working. We're finding talent in the draft. We just got to keep drafting and hopefully save some money on that massive defensive line, and then they get healthy, and then we'll start winning championships eventually, maybe one day.
Yeah, well, I mean, your guys' scouting crew and whatnot has done really well even early on. Like, Chase Young's Chase Young. That was a no-brainer move. But Montez Sweat, I mean, he had question marks. Just everybody kind of has question marks, but he ended up turning into a beast as well. So even on the higher rounds, when you're hitting on those 1 through 3, and the mid-round stuff, which is, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but kind of where our luck has gone when it comes to draft as well. At least you can feel confident in the way that the scouting group, does their job. And as a Raiders fan, drafting has never been a strong suit on our end of things. So it's nice to have, people like Foster Moreau, Mad Max, Hobbs, Renfro, all those kind of guys. So yeah, I mean, where are you at on is Heineke the guy even if Fitzpatrick comes back next year? Does Fitzpatrick come back next year? Do you
I
guys
feel like
attack a quarterback?
I feel like we have to roll with Heineke, um, because he's the younger. I think the comparison last episode was he's more of a younger Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
I think
he's a
he's more of a Case Keenum, where he's going to be able to come in and manage, run around, make plays. Looking at the draft for the prospects in the draft, um, and where we're at being currently 6-6, we're going to miss out on, say, the top tier talent.
yeah.
Dating back, talking about draft, I would have took Justin Herbert over Chase.
Hmm.
Not saying Chase isn't great, but given that we already had a Kerrigan and Montez Sweat on the team already, and we needed that franchise quarterback, I probably would have took Chase. But Heineke is he's a gambler. He's taking a chance on himself. As a fan of football, period, you like to see the underdog jump in and be successful. He's definitely took a different route to becoming a starting quarterback in NFL. So can't help but root for the guy when he's not playing against your team. He's definitely doing things that I felt like he should have been the starter coming into the year. I also think Josh Allen behind him, or not Josh Allen,
Kyle Allen, didn't he come
Kyle
over
Allen.
from?
Kyle Allen, yeah, Kyle. I think he's young enough too that we don't have to spend a high draft pick. We just need to develop the guys we have. Before he broke his ankle, he was playing good football too. They're more of a game managed type. They're not a Aaron Rodgers. I'm gonna beat you with fantastic throws, but also maybe they could be if they had big body wide receivers to go along with Scary Terry. I think they can be good if the right mix is in. Last few years we've been hesitant to spend money in the offseason. We don't really Redskins, Cowboys, Raiders for years always been big spenders in free agency. I think with Mayock coming in and some of the culture changes in all these different places, we're not going into free agency just paying for talent and hoping I think they've taken the college route. They're going to develop talent. And if we can get another wide receiver, a bigger body than Scary Terry, then maybe the quarterback play isn't as important as long as they don't throw interceptions. I've watched Joe Flacco win a Super Bowl. He's definitely not a world beater. He's a glorified game manager. So I think I'm getting myself a Heineke jersey or something for Christmas. I'm becoming a fan. I'll take him. Long term, short term, he's still what, I think 27, 28 years old. So let's just see what he got. Let him rock it out for the rest of the season, and if he can keep winning. I mean, if we beat the Cowgirls twice, we're leading division and winning 2 years consecutively. I think winning that division 2 years in a row because it's so up and down, we might as well give him the reins, the key to the city, and let's see what he can do.
Yeah, you kind of with him, you're in that interesting position where he's young enough you can keep kind of riding it out, especially if he continues to, you know, play well enough, put you guys in this type of situation every year where you could possibly bring someone in and kind of let them, groom them a little bit, get them a few years. This draft, there's a couple guys that are on the top end for quarterback talent this year. First round guys. There's a decent amount of talent, potential talent when you're talking mid round stuff. Guys that are athletic, big arms, just need some progression and stuff that take a flyer on and hope they pan out. So I feel like the Raiders at this point are very close to that situation where it's like, how much longer can we really hope that Derek Carr takes that next step? And it looked like he was doing so this year. I think he's got the ability to take us to the playoffs and have some success in that realm if he can be consistent, and his biggest issue is consistency. And you just got to kind of ask yourself, how long can you hope that things get better before you just go in a different direction? Because I don't know how many quarterbacks have really been given 8 years without a playoff berth,
Right.
to be the guy. And there's been so many different, like, well, he hasn't had this, hasn't had that. The stability of coaching, the weapons around him, that kind of stuff has never always really fallen in a line that well, and it kind of did this year, minus the fact that our offensive line is kind of shit again, from where they used to be. But it just feels weird that the Raiders are in this kind of like limbo situation. They obviously would have to be like an elite quarterback, away from possibly even contending in the playoffs for the most part, I feel like. But it's also one of those things where it's like, you get us a consistent, aggressive quarterback that can, make plays happen, consistently, and then a couple more pieces around that, an offense, a number one wide receiver, maybe some help on the O line. It's like we're close, we're not. We're really not, super close, but we're as close as we've ever been in a long time, and I think that's where some of the hope comes from. Is it's like this team is better than we've had to, gotten to root for in a long time. So let's just hope it can ride out. There was a gentleman on Reddit who predicted the Raiders' schedule with a flip of the coin, and he was 11-0 going into this game against football team, and he had it as a win, and we lost. So at this point in the season, the Raider fans really holding on to the flip of a coin as our last kind of hope to this landslide we're dealing with, but. I don't know, man. It's frustrating because you just wonder when do you pull the plug on Carr? When do I think they're at least in a spot to like go draft somebody and see if he can, push Carr and compete with them. Carr's got 2 years left on his deal, or next year left on his deal, something like that. So like weird spot of like, do you extend him? Do you give him more time, pushing on 10 years as
I'm
starting quarterback?
I'm not a GM. I'm not a GM. But in my honest opinion, you can't give Carr 30 million or whatever the going rate is now for me mid range to average quarterback. So if Kirk Cousins essentially is that landmark of good numbers but not winning caliber quarterback, he can't get Kirk Cousin money. Not that he's a bad quarterback. I just think I don't know if his leadership style. I don't know if it's what around him. I mean, for 3 more years, and spending that type of money on quarterback when you got these late round draft picks who get less guaranteed money in the beginning, who's going to definitely want more money later. I don't know if you spend that money on Derek. That's where you Raider fans are struggling because as a fan of football, I would like to see Marcus get another shot. He's 26, 27 years old, former second overall pick in the draft. Definitely got the wheels. I don't think he's ever had a quarterback coach like Gruden that can push him and get him to take the time to learn football. So maybe Marcus Mariota, with his ability to extend plays and run, could possibly turn the tide in some of these games. That was a great concept when they put him in and he ran a go route and they ended up throwing the double seams and hitting the middle one. Great concept. Carr's still top
Right.
5 quarterback, top 6 quarterback in the league. So, in my opinion, of consistent play, not turning the ball over, Derek Carr still top 6, 7 quarterbacks in the league. He's almost 30 though.
Yeah, and that's another like interesting factor to it all because you look at the stats and I mean, he's up there. He's when like you said, when it comes to turnovers, he's been pretty consistent throughout his career. He's been able to throw for a lot of yards. It's just not turning into wins. I think the turnovers he does have tends to be at a very inopportune situation and really no turnovers are good, but when you're driving down, because you need to score or things are getting out of hand and the ball gets turned over, and then all of a sudden it's just, you know, no coming back from it. It's hard when those type of situations happen. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know. It's just it's a rough situation because I believe in him. I always have believed in him. Me and Andy have both been in a situation where it's like we can call it how it is, and say if he's doing bad, he's doing bad, and praise him for when he's doing good. But I've always been on the positive side of Carr and believing that he can do that. But at some point, you just wonder if it's going to actually turn around all these years that you've been hoping it turns around, at least to the good enough of being consistent throughout games, and on a week to week basis.
I don't know. That guy in Green Bay is looking for warm weather. Vegas is a nice big market.
Yep. Yeah, we're really going through the list on touching all the hot top Raiders hot topic stuff because you look at Aaron Rodgers might still want to get out of there. No one knows what's going on with Deshaun Watson right now. Obviously, that's a kind of a touchy situation on where that's going, but
Yeah, it's
but
pretty
then
touchy. But in this country, we're innocent to proven guilty.
exactly,
Judges get to go to work if they got pending cases. Police get to go to work if they got pending cases. Let the man go to work
yeah,
until you can figure it out. I mean, they have measures put in place with independent contractors and stuff like that. And who knows? A year out of football is the game so fast. It could change what you get from him when he finally does come back or don't come back, depending on what side of the coin you people lie on. But it's definitely quarterbacks out there that could change the free agent market. I still like Derek. I mean, I would take. I like Heineke. Don't get me wrong. I think a Kirk Cousins or a Derek Carr, say they were in San Francisco. That's a Super Bowl contending team. That's how much better they are than Jimmy Garoppolo. So maybe we kind of stretch the line on Derek. Give him a little bit more time. Maybe another wide receiver. Edwards splashes at time. He definitely, from that South Carolina pipeline, he has some of the same abilities say a Debo Samuel have. He's a tough tackle. He goes up for the ball. He's just inconsistent, but he's a late round pick too. So those type of players develop. Who knows? The Raiders might surprise us one day. The sad truth is that division is probably second best in the NFL as far as in teams. All 4 teams. If the Broncos had a quarterback, they're competing for a championship. If the Chargers play good defense consistency and they're competing for a championship, that division is just tough. So Oakland, Las Vegas just have to get more better offensive line play. But then you have people out incognito hurt, got to build from the inside out. That's why I understand the first round draft pick. I just think it was better linemen available. I think he has the most upside. He's definitely strong. He's from Alabama. He's going to work hard. It was just a reach in the sense of they could have drafted somebody else earlier and then got him later. Y'all have had some misses, unfortunate things happened with the other first round draft pick. But the cornerback, that's just was a bad pick. Mayock could call it tomorrow and say it was a bad pick. He played bad, and now he's no longer on the team. So that's just a lot of dead money and cap space. that y'all gonna have to deal with later. But that's where the collective bargaining agreement comes into place. They made it to where rookie deals isn't that detrimental in the long run, but still money, still burnt picks.
Yeah, exactly. And when they made that Damon Arnett pick, man, I was so pissed off because I was big on Trayvon Diggs that year, and he's been showing his worth as of this year, And there's so many guys that were still on the board there, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, and you go into that and you just say, all right, well, they must know something that we don't. That's the caveat that you always go with, but you know, time and time again, it's kind of been like, well, I guess we were right about that. And like you said, Richie being out, Denzel Good got hurt for the season. He was somebody that could play tackle and guard. So going into it, Richie at one guard, Good at the other guard. Our line is looking very good and very stout. And now we're having to, play second string guys are having to step up and try to fill that role. I think having Good who could play guard and play tackle. The idea was let's put Leatherwood at tackle, and then if we need to flip flop it, Leatherwood is in college. He was so universal on that line where he played guard, he played tackle, he kind of moved over. He was good at kind of everything he did. He wasn't, super elite at one thing, but he was really good at everything they had him do. So I think they looked at him in that regards. I think that's how they looked at Cleve Farrell too when we drafted him, where it was like he is a
Right.
very good all around player. He's not elite at one thing, but he's very good at just about everything. So can you progress that into an elite talent? And it's only year one with Leatherwood, so we'll see how it
Yeah.
pans out. But those injuries to the line, I think, took a big hit from where we expected to be, where we expected them to, where the starting front line was, going to be. And Richie was a huge part of our offensive line last year, and regardless of him being 37, it's still a big hit on the leadership side and just the overall
Right.
play side. So
The line took a hit overall, losing Gabe Jackson and
absolutely,
Hudson and Richie. That was all your vets and your leadership and the interior. That's what kept Derek being good. I'm not saying he's not capable of moving, but any quarterback, you take the greats, the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Manning's, when they get that inside interior pressure, their eyes drop, they miss open players. And then the inconsistency throws happen because of the fact of not having those three interior offensive linemen be stern. Because obviously when you get great edge rushers and tackles make a lot of money and edge rushers make a lot of money, but the quarterback has the ability to step up and move around. It's the difference is when the interior happen and you coming right down their lap. It's not much you can do, and that's where I see it popping up in Derek and struggling is when he get inside pressure. But that can be schematically fixed. The running backs has to help. I think where the Raiders are really struggling overall this season is the situational changes, the contingency based stuff that's happened that's out of their control has put a damper on their ability to coach and navigate. Not saying Gus isn't a great coach. Gus calls great defensive plays, but what I've noticed from this last week is tendencies. Any third and seven or more, he blitz. He instead of relying on Crosby to do what he do on and Doc Way to get in there, he sent the pressure off the left side, or he's sent edge pressure, or he's bringing the linebacker, or he's doing the sugar blitzes. I think they called it a cookie blitz, where the linebacker lined up in the gap, backed up, and then came in. He made a good hit on the quarterback, but with every blitz, there's a hole. And fortunately for the Washington football team, they were able to hit them holes on third and long. So adjustments. Gus got to not be predictable. I think they picked the right guy to step in and take over for Gruden. That allows the offense to be the offense and the defense to be the defense. But Gruden was the play caller, so they got to get in there and make some adjustments, and then they'll win some of these games later in the season. Probably finish 7 and I think with the additional week, it'd probably be like 8-9.
8 and 9 is what it would pan out if with 8 wins. I'm still hoping for 500. Maybe we win out. Maybe we win out and go 10-6. Who knows?
That'd be great. That'd be
Uh,
great. And, the best part about being a Southern guy living in California and the fans out here, they love their teams. So there would be nothing better for me if the Raiders, along with the 49ers, make it to the playoffs. And then you get to see all the fandom and all the people getting hype and they're rocking the jerseys and the flags are blaring on their car and now they got a Raider decal everywhere just to go there and lose. And when they lose and the eye of defeat is on everybody's face, I can smile and be like, ha, ha, ha. Gotta be quicker than that.
Here, I thought you were just gonna have some genuine love in your heart for fans
No,
being happy. It's
it's
okay though.
the love. It is love. It's love to watch
Yeah,
the
chaos.
disappointment when you get close, but you're just not close enough.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Well, I think we could probably talk forever about anything and everything, but I really appreciate you coming on, breaking this down. Like I said earlier, we had a bet, so I think the best thing was to have you on here so we could kind of wrap down about it and get your thoughts as well. So thank you for coming on. Appreciate
Absolutely.
the time, and yeah, I guess for now you guys are better.
I think we're better the last 3, 4 times we played. We beat y'all.
I wish that we could play in the division you guys play in. That would be fantastic.
I don't think y'all don't play that brand of physical football. But on that note, I appreciate you for having me. I enjoy watching your podcast. I enjoy watching y'all break down football, although it's from a Raiders perspective. You guys love what you do. You love what you watch, and it's a pleasure and joy watching it.
Well, I really appreciate that, and luckily for people that listen to us, follow us, that enjoy college football talk, with the Raiders, they usually don't make the playoffs, so that just means off-season college stuff comes even sooner. So doesn't give us a whole lot of extended time to talk about the Raiders. But once again, appreciate you coming on, and I will be talking to you soon.
All right.